but those absolutes do not translate to reality, right? Because in mathematics, you deal with infinities, and everyday life, you do not deal with infinities, you know?
How is it possible, right? That's something, this is just out of nowhere. Where does this thing come from? And then in mathematical sciences, there's a lot of things like this, like geometry. There's an even more famous thing about in geometry is called Calabi-Yau manifold that related to string theory. This thing was basically a revisit of Einstein's general relativity equation, asking itself whether is it possible to have closed curvature in space-time that you actually don't require even gravity to be there. This Yao Xingdong Yao is one of the great mathematicians, right? He's at Harvard, but he retired now, he go to China, right? He was the one who tried to disprove this thing, but he turns out to be true, that you can have closed curvature in space-time that without gravity even. So that added even more rich in this world, that from mathematics to real world, we already have enough hard time understanding Einstein. This guy added even more.
We deal with infinites all the time. It's just we are confined by this finite world, and so we do not perceive the infinite. But this world is infinite just like math is.
I agree. But we cannot perceive it.
Yes, we cannot perceive it. That's the only difference.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand, because I feel like if you are a mathematician, it should bring you closer to God, not further away.
I just cannot say that I'm 100% certain about anything.
Well, okay. When it comes to life, there's nothing that is certain. You know, we live one day and then we die another. There's nothing certain. There's nothing guaranteed. I understand, Joe. But again, this is based off of the limited understanding on this finite planet that we call Earth. But our minds can go beyond that. Our consciousness can go beyond this limited finite Earth. Why? Because we were created in the image of God.
That is beautiful, man.
If he were telling the truth, he wouldn't have told us.
Unless, of course, he knew you wouldn't believe the truth, even if he told us.
Welcome, everybody. What makes you so confident that God does not exist? Lack of evidence is bullshit. Joe.
Hello, buddy.
I've spoken with you before, right?
No, I don't think so.
I think I have.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
No, I have never talked to you before.
You've never spoken with me before?
No.
I mean, that profile photo, someone else has used that profile photo.
Oh, it is like a trend going on right now.
Oh, okay, that's probably why. I'm sorry. My apologies.
It's okay.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. What about you, man?
I'm good. I'm very good. What brings you in today?
I wanted to talk about religion. Yes.
What about religion would you like to talk about?
So I presume that you are a Christian, no?
Yes, I'm a Bible-believing follower of Jesus.
I see. But so I have a question. So I'm from Russia, right? По-русски?
I don't know Russian. I'm sorry.
Oh, you sound Russian.
Well, that was the one phrase that my friend in high school taught me when we were riding in his car one day, because he was wanting to learn Russian because his sister's friend was this Russian girl and she was really hot, and I guess he was just trying to impress her or something. I don't know. But he told me one phrase one day and I still remember it to this day. Yepenya по-английски. It's like, I don't speak English. Is that what it means?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the only thing that I remember.
Huh, interesting.
But
so
I'm a big fan of Russia. I like Russians.
Yes.
I like Russian people.
Yes, but the thing is that where I'm from, religion is what to frown upon, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering as well for you, because living in a communist place, how do you, how can you be Christian, And so I wanted to see that I am very happy that you can persevere through that, and still believe in something when it might be the minority,
No, man, I'm a pampered little boy in America.
I thought you were in China, my bad, sorry.
No, I'm a spoiled king in America.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But yes, in
that makes
China, there are people that can memorize entire scriptures.
Let me finish with this story. We go to China from time to time and we train leaders. And this time we brought up 22 leaders from the Hunan province, and they rode 13 hours on a train to get to a hotel that they came up 2 by 2 in these elevators so as to not draw any attention. And then they got to a hotel room, a little apartment room. It's only about 700 square feet in the little living room, no air conditioning, hardwood floor, 22 sat there. I came in, and when you teach in China, you start at 8 in the morning and you don't get done till 5 at night. You teach the whole day. They were sitting there, all 22 of them, and I looked around, I said, now, if we get caught, what will happen to me? They said, oh, you'll get deported in 24 hours and we'll go to prison for 3 years. I said, you're kidding. How many of you have been in prison for your faith? Out of 22, 18 raised their hands. I thought, no way. I looked at him and I said, you 22 people, how many people do you oversee? Because they were all of these small group leaders, underground church leaders in the Hunan province. I said, how many? If you counted up all the people under your jurisdiction, how many would it be? And they counted them up and they said, little over 20 million. I said, what? See, we forget there's 1.3 billion people in China. This is crazy. Well, I had 15 Bibles and I passed them out. Obviously, 7 didn't get them. And I said, let's turn to 2 Peter chapter 1 and we're going to read it. And just then, one lady handed hers to somebody next to her. And I thought, interesting. Well, we turned there anyway, and as we started reading it, I understood why she gave it away. She had memorized the whole thing. She just recited the whole chapter. When it was done, I went over to her at a break, and I said, you recited the whole chapter? She says, oh yes, I've memorized many chapters. I said, where did you memorize so many chapters? She said, in prison. I said, you have much time in prison. So I said, but don't they confiscate the Bible? And she said, yes. So people bring in scriptures written on pieces of paper, and they bring it in. So I said, but then if they find that piece of paper on you, won't they confiscate that? She said, oh yes, that's why you memorize it as fast as you can. Because even though they can take the paper away, they can't take what's hidden in your heart. I thought, wow. Well, after 3 days, you fall in love with these people. And when it was done, I said, how can I pray for you? I'm going to go back to America. You guys have been just so wonderful. How can I pray for you? They said, you know, Wayne, you guys can gather like this whenever you want to in America. We can't. Could you pray that one day we'll be just like you? And I looked at him and I said, I will not do that. Big incredulous eyes looked at me and they said, well, why? I said, because you guys rode a train for 13 hours to get here. In my country, if you've got to drive more than an hour, people don't come. You sat on a wooden floor for 3 days. In my country, if people have to sit more than 40 minutes, they leave. You sat not only here for 3 days on a hard wooden floor, but you did it without air conditioning. In my country, if it's not padded pews and air conditioning, people don't often come back. In my country, we have an average of 2 Bibles per family. We don't read any of them. You hardly have any Bibles, and you memorize them from pieces of paper. I will not pray you become like us, but I will pray that we become just like you.
Because that's the only way that they can have the Bible. Because, like you were saying, in communist China, you can't really openly profess that.
Do you ever want to go like on a missionary trip in China and go talk to like family and spread the gospel maybe?
That'd be cool. I've been to China.
Oh,
Well,
really?
when I tried to talk to my father-in-law about God, he would say things like, you shouldn't talk about this stuff in public. There's spies and people can overhear you and they can report you. And I was like, goodness gracious, man. And I didn't want to endanger my family because I was there with my wife and 3 kids and my father-in-law. I didn't want to be the cause of any unnecessary drama for them. But if I could go to China or something like that, or go to North Korea, that'd be really cool. But at the same time, the only way I would go is if I knew that there would be absolutely no chance that I'd have to worry about dying. Because I like it here in America. I like my freedom, you know?
I do too. Yes.
I do like my freedom.
So do you not visit family in China and talk about the gospel?
Well, I'm not Chinese. That's the first thing.
Well, then what are you?
I'm technically North Korean.
Is that not in China?
No, man. North Korea is not a part of China, man.
I thought that it is it not?
Why is this world so ignorant?
No, but bro, China is a big country. It houses billions of people. So South Korea is part of China because Japan is an island, right?
Is Ukraine a part of Russia?
Yes.
How is Ukraine a part of Russia? They're 2 separate countries. They're at war
No,
with
they're not, brother. According to me, I'm Russian and Ukraine is Russia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because of like the history. That's like China and Taiwan. I understand. But Korea has no history like that with China. Korea
But then why is it inside of it?
Huh?
Why is it inside of it?
It's not inside of China. It's connected
Bro.
to China.
No, dude, bro, I think that you're a liar.
You liar! Liar! You're a liar!
Because my teachers told me that Korea is divided into North and South, and that is inside of a China.
No, it's not inside of China, bro. North Korea
It
is
is,
connected
bro.
to
What do you
China.
mean?
Listen, just mute. China, North Korea, South Korea. It's not China, North Korea, South Korea. It's not inside of China. I don't know why I'm talking with you. You're so ignorant. I told you already. Why do you keep insisting on telling me that I'm wrong? Because your teachers told you that Korea was inside of China. Clearly your teachers are wrong. You have to unmute.
No, but it is a province. The area. You know what I'm trying to say?
Asia, not China. Korea
No,
is
buddy.
inside Asia, just like Ukraine is a part of Europe.
So basically, Korea is inside of Asia.
Korea is inside of Asia, not inside of China. This is maybe ignorance and also a little human error on your part.
Wait, let me look it up.
Petey Pepsi, why would I bring you up here, son? You self-righteous Pharisee.
Oh my God, bro, I am so sorry, man.
Hold up, Petey Pepsi blocked. This little kid's gonna sit there and mass report my live. Sorry,
I'm sorry,
about that.
bro.
I don't want
I
Petey
think I
Pepsi
meant
mass
I
reporting
meant to
my
say
live.
I meant to say that North Korea was inside of Asia, not China. That is what I meant.
That's what I'm saying, man, Joe. That's why I was getting a little frustrated because I kept telling you, no, Korea is not inside China. It might be inside Asia, but it's not inside China.
What about Japan? Because it is an island.
Japan is an island and it is a part of Asia.
Okay, I see. I appreciate your patience, bro.
Well, I can tell that it was genuine ignorance when you were saying it. It wasn't like you were trying to be a troll.
Yes. So I am a Jewish person. So, but my belief in God is sort of iffy, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, let's talk about it.
Okay. What do you want to talk about?
What's iffy about it?
I find it hard to believe in absolutes, and it requires a sort of faith, and I don't have faith in anything. It is hard to put my faith in something because that is not how I think,
You don't believe in absolutes?
I do not.
Give me an example of what you think an absolute is.
An absolute is something that you have to have like a 100% conviction that it is true.
So you don't live with any absolutes?
No.
That's so weird.
I know I am a mathematician and I think mathematically and I think probability wise and I know that there is nothing that is 100% certain. So I basically lived my life with that idea. It is very depressing.
You were telling me that you see God or evidence of God in math.
Well,
Can you explain what you were saying? Or maybe I misread what you were saying.
no, you did not. I have been closer and closer to God in the sense that because it takes me a long time, I'm rather rebellious. I have to say, damn it, God, you got to prove it to me. Show it to me, buddy. Just kidding. Oh, I'm sorry to anybody. no offense. But I really say it in that way. You talk to yourself in a sense. But in many, many moments in history of physics or mathematics, things come out. You see, mathematics, is this very pure word that it seems to have no connection to real world physics.
That's right.
It's true. It's complex number. It's one of them. But it appears in quantum mechanics, right? It's so beautiful. But one of the things that sometimes you see in equation is so amazing. When you formulate, maybe it's not right. Maybe it's this and that. Maybe, you doubt yourself. But one of the most beautiful equations was the one that derived by Paul Dirac. He's a professor at Cambridge University, but he retired in Florida, by the way. He died in Florida, Tallahassee. It's a refuge for him because he doesn't like to talk. He would sit there for 5 days, he don't talk. One day, all of a sudden, he talked. But anyway, he formulated, he's a beautiful man. Paul Dirac, he formulated this relativistic equation for electrons. But in one of the equations, the solution come out to be a negative sign. Not only that, there's a square root involved, so it's strange behavior. There's a negative sign in lot, but it has the exact property, like an electron and all that stuff. How come? Everybody say you're crazy, you're stupid, this and that, right? he's not even he didn't, no sweat, buddy. He just say, I'm right. A few years later, it is shown in Caltech by Carl Anderson to show there's actually such a thing called positron. The opposite brothers of an electron. There's such a thing. And then if you ask yourself, how is it possible, right? That's something, this is just out of nowhere. Where does this thing come from? And then in mathematical sciences, there's a lot of things like this, like geometry. There's an even more famous thing about in geometry is called Calabi-Yau manifold that related to string theory. This thing was basically a revisit of Einstein's general relativity equation, asking itself, whether is it possible to have closed curvature in space-time that you actually don't require even gravity to be there. And they show that Calabi was trying to prove this. Xingdong Yao is one of the great mathematicians, right? He's at Harvard, but he retired now, he go to China, right? He was the one who tried to disprove this thing, but it turns out to be true. That is true that you can have closed curvature in space-time that without gravity even. So that added even more rich in this world, that from mathematics to real world, we already have enough hard time understanding Einstein. This guy added even more. And his discovery was in the 70s and things like that, So there's so many examples and incidents like this. Just have to tell you that you have to bow down. You have to occasionally take a deep breath, There may be some ever-presence of these forces that allow us to illuminate our life. And I tell you, God has given us all this light that tell us that we have to follow the light and do the best we can, rather than every day devouring planet Earth saying that we are the Satan, we are the evil people. These people are constantly trying to make all of us a lesser human being.
No,
I want to believe, but it is hard.
Well, Joe, 1 second, because I'm not good at math. I'm really not. I know I'm Asian and I'm supposed to be good at math, but I'm not really good with numbers. I'm good at patterns and analyzing numbers, but I'm not really good at math. So when I say this, I might be speaking out of ignorance, but isn't math all about absolutes and proof?
I see what you're saying, and mathematically, you have absolutes in confinement. Like you can say that for every solution of X, there is an absolute solution, but you have some sort of parameter, some sort of, you're saying when it is some sort of number between 1 and 10 or something, But yes, there are absolutes in mathematics, but those absolutes do not translate to reality, right? Because in mathematics, you deal with infinities, and everyday life, you do not deal with infinities, But so that is when the clash between mathematics and reality becomes.
Joe, I would actually beg to differ.
Geometry, there's an even more famous thing about in geometry is called Calabi-Yau manifold that related to string theory. This thing was basically a revisit of Einstein's general relativity equation, asking itself, whether is it possible to have closed curvature in space-time that you actually don't require even gravity to be there. And they show that Calabi was trying to prove this. Xingdong Yao is one of the great mathematicians, right? He's at Harvard, but he retired now, he go to China, right? He was the one who tried to disprove this thing, but it turns out to be true. That is true that you can have closed curvature in space-time that without gravity even. So that added even more rich in this world, that from mathematics to real world, we already have enough hard time understanding Einstein. This guy added even more.
We deal with infinites all the time. It's just we are confined by this finite world, and so we do not perceive the infinite. But this world is infinite just like math is.
I agree. But we cannot perceive it.
Yes, we cannot perceive it. That's the only difference.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand, because I feel like if you are a mathematician, it should bring you closer to God, not further away.
I just cannot say that I'm 100% certain about anything.
Well, okay. When it comes to life, there's nothing that is certain. You know, we live one day and then we die another. There's nothing certain. There's nothing guaranteed. I understand, Joe. But again, this is based off of the limited understanding on this finite planet that we call Earth. But our minds can go beyond that. Our consciousness can go beyond this limited finite Earth. Why? Because we were created in the image of God.
That is beautiful, man. I wish I was brought up to where I could believe in something like that, you know, but I don't know. It's just, it is hard to put my upbringing back and channel different sort of beliefs, you know? I'd feel like I would disappoint my parents or something.
What are your parents? Are they like Jewish by religion?
Yes,
Hey, it's better than being Muslim.
I guess so, but it's just hard, like, bro, all of my
Joe.
friends are Christian.
Joe, my parents are Christian, but I rebelled against my own parents
Why?
because they are Pharisees,
What
just
does
like
that
your
mean?
parents are Jews.
What is a Pharis?
A Pharisee.
Then they took to the Pharisees the man who had been blind. The day that Jesus made the mud and cured him of his blindness was a Sabbath. The Pharisees then asked the man again how he had received his sight.
He put some mud on my eyes. I washed my face, and now I can see.
The man who did this cannot be from God, for he does not obey the Sabbath law. How could a man who is a sinner perform such miracles as these?
And there was division among them.
You say he cured you of your blindness. Well, what do you say about him?
He is a prophet.
The Jewish authorities, however, were not willing to believe that he had been blind and could now see until they called his parents.
Is this your son? You say that he was born blind. How is it then that he can now see?
We know that he is our son, and we know that he was born blind. But we don't know how it is that he is now able to see, nor do we know who cured him of his blindness.
Ask him. He is old enough and he can answer for himself.
His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jewish authorities, who had already agreed that anyone who said he believed that Jesus was the Messiah would be expelled from the synagogue. That is why his parents said, "He is old enough, ask him." A second time, they called back the man who had been born blind.
Promise before God that you will tell the truth. We know that this man who cured you is a sinner.
I do not know if he is a sinner or not. One thing I do know. I was blind, and now I see.
What did he do to you? How did he cure you of your blindness?
I have already told you, and you would not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Maybe you too would like to be his disciples.
They insulted him and said,
"You are that fellow's disciple. But we are Moses' disciples. We know that God spoke to Moses. As for that fellow, however, we do not even know where he comes from."
What a strange thing that is. You do not know where he comes from, but he cured me of my blindness. We know that God does not listen to sinners. He does listen to people who respect him and do what he wants them to do. Since the beginning of the world, nobody has ever heard of anyone giving sight to a person born blind. Unless this man came from God, he would not be able to do a thing.
You were born and brought up in sin, and you are trying to teach us.
and they expelled him from the synagogue. When Jesus heard what had happened, he found the man.
Do you believe in the Son of Man?
Tell me who he is, sir, so that I can believe in him.
You have already seen him, and he is the one who is talking with you now.
I believe, Lord.
And he knelt down before Jesus.
I came to this world to judge, so that the blind should see, and those who see should become blind.
Some Pharisees who were there with him heard him say this and asked him,
"Surely you don't mean that we are blind too?"
If you were blind, then you would not be guilty. But since you claim that you can see, this means that you are still guilty.
Those were the Jewish leaders of the time, back during Jesus. The Pharisees were the ones to put him on the cross.
Bro, I did not know that.
Well, can I give you some good advice?
Yes, sir. Please do.
Minimize your screen and go to your App Store right now, or your Google Play Store, and then type in YOUVERSION, YouVersion. It's the Bible app. It will say Holy Bible, and it is developed by Life Church. Click on it. It's free. Download it. Open it. On the bottom, you'll see the Bible icon. You're going to press the Bible icon. And then on the top left is NIV. That's New International Version. You're going to press NIV and change it to KJV, which is King James Version. The reason why I'm telling you this is because you want the most accurate translation. And when it comes to English, I know you're Russian, but English, it is the most accurate English translation that we have to date. It is the 7th English translation of the Bible, and nothing before and nothing after it is better than it.
These men, everyone had to be so skilled in the languages that they themselves had to do the translating. This was a team technique unsurpassed either before or since.
54 scholars were originally chosen, but it is said that only 47 of them actually took part. What followed over the next 7 years was perhaps the most ingenious, the most detailed, the most exhaustive, and systematic translation process ever conceived or carried out.
They had, they called them companies. They had 6 companies in 3 different cities in London. It's called the special team technique. Each of the men had 2 divisions. Each of the teams had 2 divisions, the Old Testament, New Testament in the team. And they had a very ingenious method of translating. They had the average of 7 men per team, just to take that as an average. They went through every word of the King James Bible 14 times. Here's how they did it. Each man in the team had to translate for himself that portion of Scripture, Old or New Testament, assigned to him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 different translations came in and they met at their team and they went over everyone's translation. Which is the best? Throw out the bad, keep the good. That's the 8th time they went through in the team. Then the King James was very specific. I want you to take what you have in each team and give it to the other 5 teams. So here's 8 and 5 is 13 times. The other teams went into it. When they looked at things and they wanted to change some things, they didn't agree with these teams. Then they had a 14th time at the end of the time when it was finished, 2 from each of the teams, 12 men, the leading men at the final went over everything. And so there are 14 times everyone went through. And that wasn't the end of it because the king was very specific. Each of the bishops or leaders of the Church of England had a copy of this draft of the King James Bible. And they sent these bishops sent to everyone in their charge who were skilled in Hebrew, skilled in Greek, to go over this and see if there's any problems that they had and to give that information to these teams and these 3 different cities, the 6 different teams. And that was the way the thing was done. Their method that was used was 2 things, verbal equivalence and formal equivalence. Verbal equivalence meaning they wanted to translate Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek words into English words. Not messages or thoughts or ideas, but they want to have words and words, wherever possible. Formal equivalence has to do with the forms of the words. They wanted to be as surely as they can of a noun in Hebrew, Aramaic, or Greek, put it over in a noun in English. Pronouns to pronouns, adjectives to adjectives. They didn't want to have dynamic equivalence, which is add, subtraction, change of the words of God. They didn't want to change any of these things.
So change it to KJV. It's going to default in the Gospel of John. So what you're going to do is you're going to press play, but you're not going to just press play anytime. Well, you can, but what your goal and your challenge is to make a commitment. Every time you get in the shower, you're going to take your phone, you're going to put it on the other side of the curtains or the glass and simply press play. And while you wash your body, you're going to let the Word of God wash your soul. Start in the Gospel of John, and then once you finish the Gospel of John, you're going to go back to Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and you're going to do that 3 times. But you have to commit to that. I heard your tears. I felt your heart. And if you truly seek, ye shall find. Knock, and the door shall be opened unto you. Jesus meets us all where we are, Joe, but he never leaves us there. And if you're worried about rebelling against your mother and father on your eternal soul, no, Joe, you must be strong and courageous, like Joshua. Be strong and courageous and know that he is God and he loves you. That's why he died for you, Joe. That's why he shed his blood for you, because the atonement is made through the blood. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, Joe. You understand?
That is beautiful, man. I downloaded it. I changed it to the King James Version, man. I want to say, brother, that yes, you brought tears to my face, and it is beautiful, bro. It is beautiful. I want to say I appreciate it so much, dearly, bro.
I'm following you. I had to take my hoodie off because my body is heating up, literally. It's like the fire is burning inside me. And I need you to know that Jesus loves you dearly. He does.
Even if I'm Jewish?
Especially because you're Jewish.
I see you are a prophet, sir. My Samaritan ancestors worshipped God on this mountain. But you Jews say that Jerusalem is the place where we should worship God.
Believe me, woman. The time will come when people will not worship the Father either on this mountain or in Jerusalem. You Samaritans do not really know whom you worship. But we Jews know whom we worship because it is from the Jews that salvation comes.
Do you want me to share something interesting with you?
Yes, please do.
I'll show you in a picture. All right, take a look at this picture, okay? You see all those people there?
Yes.
Those are all the people I'm related to.
You're related to Beethoven?
Yes.
That is crazy, bro.
If he were telling the truth, he wouldn't have told us.
Unless, of course, he knew you wouldn't believe the truth, even if he told it to you.